The Last Lesson. By Alphonse Daudet. Long answer questions. Describe the feelings, emotions and behavior of M. Hamel on his last day in school. Or write a character sketch of M. Hamel. Answer. M. Hamel was a strict and disciplined teacher. He was deeply devoted to teaching the French language and had been serving in the same school for the last 40 years. He was a true patriot who loved his country and language with all his heart. On his last day in school, M. Hamel was very emotional and heartbroken. He had to leave the school because an order had come from Berlin that only German would be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. This made him very sad and upset. He wore his best Sunday clothes on that day, a beautiful green coat, a frilled shirt, and a little black silk cap, all embroidered. In his final class, he was extra gentle and kind. He did not scold anyone and spoke with great patience and care. As a friend and guide, he advised the villagers to give importance to learning. He told them that language is the key to freedom and that they must protect their mother tongue. He made Franz and others realize the value of learning and why they should not postpone their studies. M. Hamel was a man of deep feelings. At the end of the class, he wrote "Vive la France" on the blackboard with great pride and love for his country. M. Hamel was not just a teacher, he was a true guide, philosopher, and patriot. He will always be remembered as an ideal teacher who inspired love for one's language and country. What unusual things did Franz notice when he reached his school? Answer. It was a warm and bright day, but there was an unusual calm at school. Usually, when the school began, there was a lot of noise and activity. The sound of desks opening and closing could be heard from the street. Children used to repeat their lessons loudly in unison, and the teacher's ruler would often rap on the table. But that day, everything was quiet, which surprised Franz. When Franz looked through the window of the classroom, he saw that all his classmates were already in their seats. M. Hamel was walking up and down the room with his iron ruler under his arm. Surprisingly, he spoke to Franz in a very kind and gentle tone and asked him to go to his seat quickly. After overcoming his fear, Franz noticed that M. Hamel was wearing his special clothes, a beautiful green coat, a frilled shirt, and a little black silk cap, all embroidered. He usually wore these only on special occasions like school inspections or prize distribution days. What surprised Franz the most was the presence of villagers sitting on the back benches, which were usually empty. They included old Hauser, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others. They had come to the school to show respect and gratitude to M. Hamel for his 40 years of dedicated service. Justify the title of the story, The Last Lesson. Answer. Alphonse Daudet has given a very suitable and meaningful title to this story. The title, The Last Lesson, refers not only to the final French lesson taught by M. Hamel but also to a deeper message about the importance of language, education, and timely learning. The story presents two main themes. First, it shows the emotional and painful farewell of M. Hamel, who had taught in the school for 40 years. Second, it highlights how people often postpone learning and take education lightly, forgetting that one day it might be too late, just like it happened with Franz. The people of Alsace always believed there was enough time to learn, so they never gave much importance to school. They preferred sending their children to work in farms and mills instead of making them attend school regularly. Even Franz himself often tried to skip school and was not serious about his lessons. But suddenly, everything changed. After the defeat in the war, an order came from Berlin that French would no longer be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. This unexpected decision shocked everyone. It was only then that they realized the value of their language and came to attend M. Hamel's final class to show respect and learn the last lesson. This story teaches us that we must not delay our learning. We must value our language, culture, and education before it is too late. Conclusion. The title, The Last Lesson, is very appropriate. It not only refers to M. Hamel's final class but also gives an important message: learn in time, before the opportunity is gone. Franz's attitude towards school as well as towards M. Hamel changes when he comes to know about the takeover of his village by the Prussians. Do you agree? Discuss with reference to the last lesson. Answer: yes, Franz's attitude towards school and towards M. Hamel changes completely when he learns that the Prussians have taken over his village and that this will be the last French lesson. In the beginning, Franz was not interested in school. He had not learned his lesson on participles and was afraid that M. Hamel would scold him. He even thought of spending the beautiful day outside, enjoying nature, instead of going to school. However, he finally decided to attend the class. When Franz reached school, he was surprised to see the unusual silence and the serious atmosphere. The back benches, which were always empty, were now occupied by the village elders, who looked sad and serious. This surprised Franz. Then he came to know that this would be their last lesson in French because of an order from Berlin. At that moment, he felt a deep sense of regret. He realized that he had taken his language and his education for granted. He felt sorry for not attending school regularly and wasting his time on useless things. Franz also noticed that he was suddenly able to understand M. Hamel's grammar lesson. He wondered why he had never paid attention before. He developed a new respect for his teacher and felt emotional about losing him and the chance to learn French. Conclusion: yes, Franz's attitude changed completely. He felt regretful, emotional, and developed a strong respect for both his language and his teacher. The story teaches us to value education and not to take it for granted. When a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Comment. Answer: the last lesson by Alphonse Daudet beautifully highlights the cruelty of war and how it affects human emotions and freedom. Our mother tongue is a powerful tool. It allows people to express their thoughts, emotions, and identity. When one country conquers another, the conquerors often try to suppress the local people by forcing their own language upon them. This is a way of breaking their spirit and controlling them. In such times, the mother tongue becomes a symbol of hope and resistance. Even when people are enslaved, their language keeps their culture and identity alive. It unites them and reminds them of who they are. It becomes the key to their prison because it gives them the strength to fight for their freedom and remain connected to their roots. In the story, M. Hamel reminds his students and the villagers to protect their language. He says that as long as they hold on to their language, they can never truly be defeated. The language will keep their spirit alive and guide them towards freedom. Conclusion: the mother tongue is more than just a means of communication, it is a symbol of identity and unity. Holding fast to one's language during times of slavery or oppression is like holding the key to freedom and self-respect. Franz thinks, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? What could this mean? Answer: the last lesson by Alphonse Daudet highlights linguistic chauvinism, which means forcing one's language on others to show dominance. When Franz thinks, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons, he is expressing his deep pain and sarcasm. He feels sad and helpless that the people of Alsace are being forced to stop speaking French and start learning German due to the Prussian rule. French was their mother tongue, it came naturally to them, just like cooing comes naturally to pigeons. Franz means that while the Prussians can take control of their land, they cannot take control of their hearts, minds, and natural ways of expression. Forcing a new language on people is cruel and unfair. It's not easy to forget one's mother tongue, and it's painful to be forced to speak a foreign language. Through this thought, Franz mocks the German rulers. He says that if they could, they might even want the pigeons to coo in German, which is, of course, impossible. This shows that language cannot truly be imposed on unwilling people. Conclusion: Franz's thought shows his sorrow and resistance. It symbolizes that love for one's language is natural and deep. True freedom includes the right to speak one's mother tongue, and no ruler can take that away completely. Value-based questions. 1. Franz's feelings about M. Hamel and school changed gradually by the end of the text. though he had a great disliking for both in the beginning of the story. It is said that first impression is the best impression. Is it true in context of the last lesson? Definitely not. Write a small paragraph of about 100 to 120 words penning down your views on a person can be best judged in his first appearance only. Answer. A well-known dictum states that appearances are deceptive. In fact, it is true that one cannot be judged in just one meeting. Actually, one or more meetings are not enough to judge a person's personality. Every person reacts differently on different situations at different times. So it is not a matter of single appearances to form a judgment about a person. It might be a prejudice. Nowadays every person appears to be social and gentle. They want to be presentable in the society, no matter what their background is. One's clothes, gestures, habits, etc. do not define one's personality in just one appearance. Due time should be taken to form opinion about a person. Different situations reveal different aspects of one's personality. Sometimes a life remains short to know a person. But sometimes even a few seconds are enough to know one's real face. Hence, it is not a matter of first or last impression but the issue of time, needed to know one in one's right colors. While speaking, his mouth choked and he wrote, Vive la France, and finally, by gesture, he said, School is dismissed, you may go. These lines show that M. Hamel was deeply attached to his motherland, profession, and mother tongue. In other words, one should be attached to one's own land, culture, and customs. But today's Indians are getting influenced by Western culture. This shows the need to spread awareness about patriotism and related values. Write a paragraph, 100 to 120 words, highlighting the issue. Answer. Patriotism, an unmatched spirit. Patriotism means love and respect for one's country, language, culture, and traditions. A true patriot takes pride in his roots and works for the progress of his motherland. Sadly, in today's times, many Indians are blindly following Western culture in the name of being modern, forgetting the richness of their own heritage. India has a glorious culture that has attracted the world for centuries. Many freedom fighters laid down their lives for the sake of our nation. We must not forget their sacrifices. While it is fine to learn from other cultures, we must never forget or ignore our own. It is important to instill moral values, cultural pride, and love for the motherland in today's youth. Patriotism is a timeless and powerful feeling that must be preserved. Thank you. Prepared by K. Rajendra Prasad.